Hi all, it's Teresa in Gemma's house. Well, just a quick video to show you how I transformed this bookcase that I had bought about a decade ago, and it no longer went with my other stuff in this house. I did think to take the legs off of this bookcase because all of my other furniture, they have straight bottoms and they sit right on the floor. But it turns out they were screwed in and glued and they were pretty impossible to remove, so I just left them on. And look at the back of this bookcase. It's fairly finished. I could use this bookcase as a short room divider if I wanted to. So just using these small sample jars of regular interior house latex paint. So I just started by washing down the surfaces of the bookcase and shelf to remove the dust. And I just have a little bit of water and a pie plate to use as my palette. And I'm just putting a little bit of water into the paint to water it down just a tiny bit. And I'm using a chip brush because I don't want full coverage. I want kind of a streaky appearance to my brush strokes. And I'm blotting off some of the paint so that I can keep kind of a dry brush effect as I'm painting this. And I started with the shelf to kind of use it as a test. And as I'm getting a little more confident, I just went over it a few times. Some areas had a little bit too much paint on them, so I just wiped some of it off with a paper towel. And adding a tiny bit more water to my brush with the paint, I'm just going over it a couple more times until I'm happy with the consistency of my brush strokes. But I do want variations in the amount of paint that I have on the brush strokes. So with the shelf finished, I'm going to move to the bookcase. And I started with the feet again so I could practice on them. And they were very easy to paint. So I was feeling more confident with my brush strokes and I started painting the bookcase itself. And I made sure to go with the grain of the wood pieces, the way they were positioned. And I was feeling more confident now, so I started on some of the larger areas of the bookcase. And again, I didn't want full coverage of this paint. I did want some of the black to show through. And I wanted my brush strokes to look streaky, kind of like wood in a way, so that it did look like painted wood. And some of these broad flat surfaces did go pretty easily to paint. Some of these areas on the inside, when I was painting the bracket part that holds the shelf, I got too much paint coverage and it dried, so I could see the blotchiness of it. So what I did was I took one of these smaller chip brushes that has a small angle on it, and this allowed me to get into those crevices a lot easier. So I'm just applying more paint over them and trying to blend them in, and also trying to keep the streaks of the brush strokes showing too. And then with a larger chip brush, I tried to blend that area in with the remaining part of this side of the bookcase. And it actually went pretty well. This technique is pretty forgiving. After everything was dry, I wanted to put one coat of varnish. This is a matte varnish, and you have to make sure to stir this well if you haven't used it for a while. And you're not supposed to shake it because that would introduce a lot of bubbles into the varnish. So again, I'm just following the grain of the pieces of wood to apply this matte varnish. So when everything was dry, my last surface to do was the top. And I wanted to make sure this one looked really nice because of course it's going to be the most visible. As it dried, I started adding more variations in the thickness of the paint to cover up some little blemishes that I had as I was painting. And I let that dry and then applied one coat of the matte varnish on the top. So here's the finished piece, and I am really happy with the look of it. I think the blue is beautiful, and it does look really nice with the blues in the carpet in my living area. So I decided to use this for a collection of vases that I have, and also some glass paperweights. And I think the blue of the bookcase shows them off really nicely. So there's other things you could do with this. You could add decals or stencils or some peel and stick wallpaper to the back if you wanted to add more details. But I just like it fairly plain looking like this. So I hope this gave you some ideas to paint some furniture of yours that you're not particularly satisfied with and to repurpose them. And can I ask you to check out my main Gemma's House channel page, because I do a lot of other types of projects and you might see another video that you're interested in watching. And again, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Bye-bye.